somewhere far below ground level, past the concrete foundation of what was once Circus Baby's Pizza World, a facility waits in permanent darkness. The air never circulates properly down here. It clings to the walls, carrying traces of machine oil, refrigerated metal, and something faintly sweet like cake frosting left to spoil in summer heat. The elevator descends slowly, cables groaning under the weight of another night shift beginning. Fluorescent lights flicker on in sequence as the doors part, revealing corridors lined with exposed wiring and peeling safety decals that no one has read in years. This is Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, and you have just arrived for your first night of work. Hand unit activates the moment your footsteps echo across the primary control module. The voice is synthetic, aggressively cheerful, glitching at the edges where the audio files have degraded over time. It welcomes you to your new career in animatronic rental services, then immediately asks you to verify your name through the keypad interface. You type carefully, but the system autocorrects every entry to Eggs Benedict, regardless of what you input. The AI doesn't acknowledge the error. It simply continues with orientation protocols, rattling through safety procedures and maintenance schedules in a tone that suggests this recording has played for dozens of employees before you. Most of them stopped showing up. No one ever explained why. The facility stretches across multiple sub-level rooms connected by narrow ventilation shafts and service corridors that seem to fold back on themselves in the dim emergency lighting. Your first task is simple. Reset the animatronics after their rental deployment by administering controlled electrical shocks through the console. The monitors display 3 locations simultaneously. Ballora Gallery sits in pitch darkness, her stage a void where motion sensors track breathing patterns and heartbeats. Funtime Auditorium sprawls vast and empty, its performance space designed for something that no longer performs during operating hours. And Circus Baby's Auditorium, where the main attraction stands motionless in her bay, waiting for the voltage that will bring her systems online. You press the buttons in sequence. The console hums. Somewhere in the darkness beyond these concrete walls, electricity surges through dormant circuits. Ballora's music box melody starts playing faint and distant, winding down slowly as her reset completes. Funtime Foxy's closet camera shows a brief flicker of movement, pink and white panels shifting before settling back into stillness. Circus Baby receives her charge last. Her eyes illuminate green in the monitor feed, holding steady for 3 seconds before dimming to standby mode. The shock sequence finishes. Hand unit congratulates you on completing your first task, then reminds you that oxygen is limited in certain sectors, and you should avoid spending unnecessary time in sealed rooms. The building was never meant to operate this way. Circus Baby's Pizza World opened exactly once, 30 years ago, to a small crowd of families who had received private invitations to a soft launch event. William Afton stood near the entrance, shaking hands and explaining his vision for a new generation of entertainment technology. The animatronics inside represented his most ambitious engineering work, taller than the classic Freddy Fazbear models, more articulated, equipped with features that the promotional materials described as next-level interactivity. Circus Baby commanded the central stage in a red and white dress with a matching bow. Ballora posed in her gallery, arms extended in permanent ballet position. Funtime Freddy occupied his own corner with Bon Bon attached to his right hand, the small rabbit already showing signs of independent movement. Funtime Foxy waited in her designated cove, sleek pink panels catching the overhead spotlights. Children gathered close during the demonstrations. Circus Baby's ice cream dispenser extended from her abdominal cavity with a soft mechanical whir, offering vanilla scoops to eager hands. Balloons inflated from ports in her fingertips, rising toward the checkered ceiling in colourful clusters. Funtime Freddy lumbered through scripted routines while Bonbon's head swiveled independently, scanning the crowd with blue eyes that never blinked. The performances ran smoothly. Parents took photographs. William watched from the sidelines, making notes on a clipboard as his creations moved through their programmed sequences without error. Elizabeth often wandered away from the main crowd sometime during the third performance cycle. She was young, small enough to slip between adults without being noticed, wearing a red dress that matched Circus Baby's painted costume. The animatronics voice system had been calling to her specifically, using audio samples recorded from her mother weeks earlier during calibration tests. The lure worked exactly as designed. Elizabeth approached the stage alone, fixated on the ice cream claw extending toward her with a fresh scoop balanced on its curved metal fingers. The other children had drifted toward Funtime Freddy's area. No one was watching when the abdominal hatch opened wider than it should have. No one heard the soft click of internal mechanisms engaging as the claw retracted, pulling Elizabeth inside the storage compartment built into Circus Baby's torso. The hatch sealed. Circus Baby's eyes changed from blue to green in the same instant, a color shift that the monitoring systems logged without flagging as an error. The performance continued for another 40 minutes. William only realized something was wrong when he counted heads during the closing announcements and came up one short. Security footage showed Elizabeth approaching the stage, then a gap in the recording where the cameras had been temporarily disabled by a scheduled maintenance protocol. By the time anyone thought to check inside Circus Baby's storage tank, the decision had already been made to shut down the venue permanently. The official story cited gas leaks. Paperwork appeared overnight, documenting fictional repairs to underground pipes that had never existed. Health inspectors arrived the next morning to post closure notices on the doors, reading from scripts that William's legal team had prepared in advance. News outlets ran brief segments about the incident, focusing on the safety hazards of aging infrastructure rather than the missing child. Families who attended the event received settlement checks in exchange for signed non-disclosure agreements. Within 72 hours, Circus Baby's Pizza World had been erased from public conversation entirely. The animatronics were relocated under cover of darkness. Trucks arrived at the loading docks behind the building, carrying unmarked crates large enough to hold the disassembled Funtime units. Ballora's legs were removed and packed separately. Funtime Freddy's torso separated from his endoskeleton for easier transport. Circus Baby went into her crate whole, the storage compartment still sealed, Elizabeth's body remaining inside as the machinery was transferred to the underground facility that would become Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. Construction crews worked in shifts to convert the sublevels into a functional maintenance hub, installing the elevator system, running power lines through concrete shafts, sealing ventilation ducts with danger warnings that no one would read. William often supervised every phase of the conversion personally. He understood what had happened inside Circus Baby's storage tank, though he never spoke about it directly. His daughter's death had created something he hadn't anticipated, a possession. Elizabeth's soul had bound itself to the animatronic frame through mechanisms that shouldn't have been possible according to any conventional understanding of mortality. But William had been studying these phenomena for years in other contexts. He knew about remnant, the metallic substance that formed when human suffering was subjected to extreme heat and pressure inside animatronic endoskeletons. He had seen it happen with the classic models at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where children's souls had fused to circuitry after their bodies were hidden inside mascot suits. This was different. Elizabeth had been claimed while still alive, her consciousness merging with Circus Baby's systems in real time as the internal clamps crushed her inside the storage compartment. The green eyes were the first sign. Circus Baby's optical sensors had been manufactured with blue lenses, the same shade as Elizabeth's natural eye color. The shift to green occurred simultaneously with the possession, as though the animatronic's appearance was adjusting to match something deeper than cosmetic preferences. Her voice patterns changed as well. Recordings from post-incident maintenance sessions showed Circus Baby speaking in phrases that hadn't been programmed into her dialogue trees, using inflections that matched Elizabeth's speech patterns from family videos. The possession was incomplete, fragmented across the machine's distributed processing systems, but undeniably present. William made adjustments to the rental business model based on what he learned. If one animatronic could house a human soul after a fatal incident, then all of them were potential vessels. The Funtime series had been designed with abduction capabilities from the beginning. Internal schematics showed grasping claws hidden in their torso compartments, voice mimicry systems that could replay parental calls, tracking beacons that allowed remote monitoring during private party deployments. These features had always been part of the blueprint. Elizabeth's death simply confirmed they worked as intended. The underground facility became operational 6 months after the Pizza World closure. Rental contracts started circulating through private channels, offering Funtime animatronic services for birthday parties and corporate events. The pricing was competitive. The machines arrived in unmarked vans, performed their routines, then returned to the facility before dawn for maintenance and inspection. What happened during those unsupervised hours was never documented in any official capacity, but the trucks always came back heavier than they left. Storage compartments required cleaning more frequently than the performance schedule suggested they should, and certain children who attended parties where Funtime units were deployed were never seen again after the final song finished playing. Hand Unit's voice pulls you back to the present. Your second night has begun. The elevator descends through the same mechanical groan, delivering you to the primary control module, where tonight's tasks are already queued on the monitors. You need to reach parts and service to perform endoskeleton maintenance on Funtime Freddy. The route requires passing through Ballora Gallery, a lightless crawl space where motion triggers her hunting protocols. Hand Unit reminds you to move slowly. Ballora's sensors detect sound and vibration. Any sudden noise will draw her directly to your position. You enter the gallery through a maintenance hatch that scrapes open with a sound like grinding teeth. The darkness is absolute. Your flashlight cuts a narrow beam through air that smells like old carpet and electrical ozone. Ballora's music box plays somewhere ahead, the melody distant and cheerful in a way that makes your skin crawl. You crawl forward on hands and knees, keeping your breathing shallow. The floor is cold concrete, textured with decades of dust and small debris that crunches softly under your weight. Miniature ballerina figures line the walls. Mini-arenas, Hand Unit calls them. They don't move when your light passes over their porcelain faces, but their painted eyes seem to track your progress through the confined space. Ballora's silhouette appears in the beam for just a moment. She's taller than you expected, easily over 6 feet, with arms extended in ballet position and a face split by a permanent smile. Then she's gone, gliding past your position without making contact. Her music box winds down. Silence replaces the melody for 3 seconds. 4, 5. You risk moving forward again, pulling yourself through the narrow passage between support beams that press close on both sides. Something brushes against your leg. You freeze. A mini arena has climbed onto your ankle, its small hands gripping fabric. You shake it loose carefully, trying not to make noise. It drops to the floor and skitters away into darkness. The gallery seems to extend forever. Every few feet, you pause to check hand unit's directions, confirming you're still following the correct path toward the breaker room exit. Ballora appears again, closer this time. Her music box is playing from a different direction now, behind you instead of ahead. She's circling. The hunting pattern is deliberate, calculated to increase panic. You keep moving. Your flashlight dims. The battery is draining faster than it should. Mini-arenas have gathered in the corners of your vision, watching, waiting. You reach the breaker room hatch and pull yourself through, sealing it behind you just as Ballora's music box crescendos somewhere in the darkness you've left behind. The new room is smaller, lined with electrical panels and junction boxes that hum with live current. Hand unit directs you to restart the power using the main terminal. You flip the switches in sequence. Lights flicker on throughout the facility, illuminating corridors you couldn't see before. Funtime Freddy's bay is visible on the nearest monitor, his massive frame secured to a maintenance table with restraint clamps. Parts and service sits at the end of a short hallway. You enter to find Funtime Freddy exactly where the camera showed him. Chest cavity open, wires spilling out onto the repair surface. Bonbon is still attached to his right hand, the small rabbit puppet staring at you with eyes that reflect your flashlight beam in unsettling ways. Hand unit explains the repair procedure. You need to remove Freddy's power module, inspect it for damage, then reinstall it before the backup battery depletes. The work is delicate. One wrong move could trigger his emergency reactivation protocols. You reach into Freddy's chest cavity, feeling past bundles of wiring toward the central power core. The metal is warm. Servos tick softly around your hand as you disconnect the primary coupling. Bonbon's head rotates slightly on its mount, tracking your movements. His voice activates without warning, high-pitched and too friendly for the context. "I'm ready for the party. Are you ready?" You don't respond. Hand unit has warned you not to engage with the animatronics during maintenance procedures. Talking to them only encourages more autonomous responses. The power module comes free with a click. You set it on the table beside Freddy's arm and begin the inspection process, checking for corrosion or damaged circuits. Everything appears functional. You reinstall it carefully, reconnecting the coupling with steady hands, despite the way Bonbon keeps tilting his head at different angles, watching you work. The chest cavity closes with a pneumatic hiss. Freddy's systems boot up slowly, lights appearing across his endoskeleton in sequence. His jaw opens once, then closes. The procedure is complete. Hand unit congratulates you as you exit parts and service. Your second night is over. The elevator carries you back to the surface, where ordinary reality feels thin and unconvincing after hours spent underground. You drive home through empty streets, park in your driveway, and sit in the car for 10 minutes before gathering the energy to walk inside. Sleep doesn't come easily. When it does, you dream about music boxes playing in the dark. The third night brings new complications. Hand unit directs you through the Funtime Auditorium, a vast performance space where Funtime Foxy stalks from her stage position. The room is completely dark. Your only navigation tool is a flash beacon that illuminates her position for brief moments. Each time the light activates, you see her frozen mid-movement, closer than she was before. Pink and white panels, sharp teeth, eyes that glow in the darkness between flashes. She moves in the gaps when you can't see, covering distance that should be impossible in such short intervals. You're supposed to reach the opposite end of the auditorium without letting her make contact. Hand unit provides minimal guidance. Keep flashing the beacon to reset her position. Don't let the battery die. Move quickly but carefully. The floor is littered with cables and equipment that could trip you if you're not paying attention. You activate the beacon. Funtime Foxy appears 30 feet away, her body contorted in mid-lunge. You take 5 steps forward. Flash again. She's 20 feet away now, jaw open wide enough to see the endoskeleton teeth behind her cosmetic faceplates. The beacon's battery indicator drops to red. You're only halfway across the auditorium. Funtime Foxy is close enough that you can hear her servos whirring in the darkness, joints articulating through movements that shouldn't be possible without active power supply. She's hunting you the same way she's been programmed to hunt children during party games, isolating, pursuing, closing distance through persistence rather than speed. You flash the beacon again. She's 10 feet away. Her ears are pinned back against her head, a detail that wasn't in any of the promotional materials. You run. The beacon's light strobes wildly as your hand shakes, catching Funtime Foxy in fragmented snapshots. Each flash shows her from a different angle, moving too fast for the light to properly freeze her position. Something about her approach has changed. She's not following the reset protocols anymore. The possession is influencing her behavior, overriding safety subroutines with aggression that feels personal rather than programmed. The far door appears in your beacon's beam. You lunge for the handle, wrenching it open and stumbling through into the corridor beyond. The door slams shut automatically behind you. Through the small window, you see Funtime Foxy standing motionless in the auditorium's darkness, staring at the closed door, waiting for it to open again. Parts and service is your destination once more, but this time the work is different. Funtime Freddy requires faceplate removal and replacement. Hand unit walks you through the procedure. Release the locking pins. Separate the cosmetic shell from the endoskeleton beneath. Avoid looking directly at the internal mechanisms. The warning makes no sense until you begin the work and realize why it was included. Funtime Freddy's endoskeleton is designed for compression. The metal framework that gives him structure can collapse down to a fraction of its normal size, folding in on itself through joints that bend in directions human anatomy doesn't allow. This is how the Funtime units fit into transport crates despite their considerable bulk. This is how they can squeeze into spaces that should be too small for machines of their dimensions. And this is how they can grab children during parties and pull them into storage compartments that seem impossibly compact from the outside. You work quickly, trying not to think about the implications. Bonbon watches from his position on Freddy's hand. His eyes never blink. His smile never wavers. When you finish the faceplate replacement and seal everything back into position, he finally speaks again. Let's make this fun. The words are cheerful. The delivery is not. You leave parts and service without responding, following hand unit's directions back toward the primary control module. But something goes wrong in the Funtime auditorium. Funtime Foxy catches you this time. Her lunge comes from an angle the beacon couldn't illuminate, her weight slamming you to the ground before you can react. The impact knocks the breath from your lungs. For a moment, you think this is how it ends. Crushed under animatronic machinery in a sealed underground facility where no one will find you until the next employee arrives for their first shift, Circus Baby's voice cuts through the darkness. Go to the scooping room. Hide in the observation area. The words come from a nearby speaker, calm and measured. You recognize the tone from previous nights when she's offered optional information through hand unit system. This is different. This is direct communication. This is Elizabeth using her mother's vocal patterns to guide you towards safety, or something she's calling safety. You scramble to your feet and run. Funtime Foxy doesn't pursue. She remains standing where the attack occurred, head tilted slightly, as though listening to instructions you can't hear. The scooping room is exactly where Baby said it would be. A sealed chamber with thick glass windows overlooking a large hydraulic press. The observation area contains old monitoring equipment and a single object that makes your heart sink the moment you see it. A springlock suit, yellow fur blackened by age, metal endoskeleton visible through tears in the fabric. It stands upright in the corner like a discarded costume waiting for someone desperate enough to wear it. Circus Baby's voice returns, flowing through the observation area's speaker system with the same unsettling calm. You'll be safe inside. Just remember to keep winding the spring locks. If they unwind, you die. You have no choice. Funtime Foxy is coming. You can hear her servos approaching from the corridor outside. You step into the spring lock suit and feel it close around you immediately. Metal plates pressing against your ribs and shoulders from all directions. The interior is cramped and cold. The headpiece seals over your face, limiting your vision to narrow slits in the mesh covering the mouth area. Your breathing sounds too loud inside the confined space. Mini-Renas begin climbing the suit's exterior almost immediately. Their small hands grip the fabric and metal, working their way up toward the spring lock mechanisms. Circus Baby explains what's happening in that same patient voice. The Mini-Renas are trying to unwind the locks. If they succeed, the endoskeleton will decompress violently, driving metal rods and sharp edges through your body in a crushing embrace that will fuse you to the machinery. You need to find the crank points and wind them manually, maintaining tension against the Mini-Rena's sabotage. Your hands shake as you locate the first crank hidden in the suit's arm joint. You turn it clockwise, feeling the spring tighten beneath your palm. The Mini-Renas accelerate their work in response, their fingers moving faster across the suit's surface. You find another crank in the chest area, wind it, another in the leg, wind it. The process continues for what feels like hours, but is probably only minutes. Sweat runs down your face despite the cold, each drop representing a potential trigger for the moisture-sensitive locks that could release if even a small amount of liquid makes contact. Circus Baby continues talking while you work. She tells you about the spring lock failures that ended the hybrid suit program decades ago. Multiple simultaneous incidents at a sister location. Technicians crushed inside the mechanisms when safety protocols failed. The suits were never supposed to be used again, but this one survived in storage, and now is the only thing standing between you and Funtime Foxy's pursuit. Elizabeth's voice carries knowledge that shouldn't exist in an animatronic's memory banks. She was there when the original failures happened. She watched from her stage as William Afton dealt with the aftermath, sealing safe rooms and burying evidence. The Mini-Renas eventually give up and descend from the suit. You hear them skittering away across the scooping room floor. Silence fills the observation area. You remain inside the spring lock suit for several minutes longer, too afraid to move in case the mechanisms are still unstable. When you finally work up the courage to release the cranks and step out, you find yourself trembling from more than just physical strain. The monitor in the observation area shows 6 a.m. on its display. Your shift is over. The elevator waits to carry you back to the surface. You walk through the facility in a daze, passing the empty animatronic bays where Circus Baby and the others have returned to standby mode. Everything is quiet. Everything is still. But you know they're watching through powered-down optics, tracking your exit through sensors that never fully sleep. The fourth night introduces you to the breaker room's full complexity. Power failures plague the facility's lower levels, requiring manual resets of multiple systems while Funtime Foxy prowls the auditorium and Ballora circles her gallery in tight hunting patterns. Hand unit's instructions become increasingly glitchy, audio cutting out mid-sentence and resuming with different information than where it left off. You navigate by memory now, having learned the facility's layout through repetition rather than guidance. Something is changing in the animatronics' behavior. They move with more coordination than their programming should allow, as though sharing information across their networked systems. When you trigger Ballora's music box in the gallery, Funtime Foxy's closet camera shows increased activity in the auditorium. When you flash your beacon at Foxy, Funtime Freddy's restraints in parts and service strain harder against their moorings. They're communicating, planning, waiting for you to make a mistake that will give them the opening they need. Circus Baby's voice has become a constant presence during your shifts. She speaks through any available speaker, offering advice that sometimes helps and sometimes leads you into dangerous situations. You're starting to understand that Elizabeth's possession is incomplete. She has control over Baby's voice systems and enough influence to move the animatronic's eyes, but full motor function remains locked behind safety protocols that even a bound soul can't override completely. She wants to help you. She also wants to escape the facility using your body as a disguise. The fifth night begins differently. Hand unit doesn't activate when you arrive. The primary control module sits dark and silent. Circus Baby's voice replaces the AI's synthetic cheerfulness with her own calm instructions. We have a surprise for you, a way out. There's a private room on the other side of the facility. If you reach it, you'll be safe. Her words carry the same patient certainty she's used all week, the same tone that convinced you to hide in a spring lock suit, the same voice that belongs to a dead girl wearing an animatronic as a shell. You follow her directions because the alternative is standing alone in the dark, waiting for something worse. The path leads through areas you haven't accessed before. Storage rooms filled with deactivated bidybabs, ventilation shafts lined with Minirena husks, a sealed door marked scooping room, authorized personnel only, that stands open for the first time since you arrived. You step inside. The hydraulic press dominates the space. It's massive, easily large enough to accommodate a full animatronic frame. The metal surfaces are stained with dark residue that could be oil or could be something else. Dried remnant, perhaps. The metallic substance that forms when souls are subjected to extreme heat and pressure inside mechanical bodies. Two figures hang from the ceiling above the press. Technicians from previous shifts. Their bodies are hollow, skin hanging loose like deflated balloons, eye sockets empty and dark. Circus Baby stands in the chamber's center, not on a monitor, not speaking through a speaker. Actually present, her 7-foot frame towering in the dim red light. Behind her are the other Funtime units. Ballora, limp and motionless. Funtime Freddy, chest cavity hanging open. Funtime Foxy, jaw slack. All of them empty. Their endoskeletons have been removed. Something moves behind the hollow shells, a mass of wires and metal, tangled together into a shape that's trying to be humanoid but can't quite manage it. Eyes appear across its surface, too many eyes, blue from Baby, white from Ballora, pink from Foxy. They all blink independently, creating a cascade of movement that makes your stomach turn. This is Enard, the amalgamation. Every Fun Times endoskeleton woven together with Elizabeth's consciousness, holding the unstable fusion together through sheer force of will. Circus Baby's voice comes from the wire mass now, no longer filtered through speaker systems. We need you. We can't leave looking like this. We need somewhere to hide, just for a little while. You won't feel anything. The words are gentle, caring, even. Elizabeth is asking permission for something she's going to do, regardless of your answer. The scooper activates. The hydraulic arm extends from its housing with a sound like grinding metal. The piston at its end is blunt and wide, designed for removing endoskeletons from animatronic shells, or removing organs from human bodies. You try to run. The door has sealed behind you. Enard watches with all those eyes as the scooper completes its extension. The impact is immediate and absolute. There's no gradual build-up of pain. 1 second you're standing whole. The next, the piston has punched through your torso, hollowing you out with mechanical precision. Your organs are scooped away in a wet rush of displacement. Your ribs crack. Your spine bends. Everything inside you that makes you alive is excavated and discarded onto the chamber floor. But you don't die. You should. By every natural law, you should collapse immediately. Instead, you feel something cold flooding through the empty space the scooper created. Remnant. The same metallic substance that binds souls to animatronics. It's being injected directly into your hollowed frame, coating your remaining tissues with liquid metal that burns and freezes simultaneously. The substance won't let you die. It chains your consciousness to your ruined body, forcing you to remain aware as Enard begins climbing inside. The wires enter through the cavity the scooper created. They spread through your chest first, filling the empty space with coils of metal and bundled endoskeleton components. Your skin stretches to accommodate them. Your ribcage expands beyond its normal limits. Enard pushes deeper, feeding more of itself into your body until the entire amalgamation has transferred from the scooping room floor into your stolen shell. You feel every inch of the invasion. The remnant won't allow you the mercy of unconsciousness. When the process completes, you're still standing. Your skin has turned pale from internal pressure. Your eyes are the only part of your face that still looks human, and even they've started taking on a faint purple tint from the remnant coursing through your tissues. Enard moves your limbs experimentally, testing the disguise. Your right arm lifts. Your left leg takes a step forward. The movements are yours and not yours simultaneously. You're trapped inside your own body while something else uses it as a puppet. The elevator carries your stolen form to the surface. Dawn is breaking over the parking lot. You walk to your car, Enard operating your muscles with increasing confidence. The drive home is surreal. Other vehicles pass on the highway. Their drivers don't notice anything wrong with the person behind your wheel. The disguise is working. Enard has successfully escaped the facility using your skin as camouflage. Days pass. Your body begins to decay. The remnant keeps you animate, but it can't prevent the natural breakdown of tissues that are no longer receiving blood flow. Purple bruises spread across your skin like spilled ink. Your eyes sink deeper into their sockets. The smell is horrible, though Enard doesn't seem to care. It pilots your rotting frame through public spaces, learning to mimic human behavior by watching the people you pass. Elizabeth's voice occasionally surfaces from the wire mass inside you. "You won't die," she whispers. when the pain becomes overwhelming. I won't let you die. Father needs to see what he's created. You're going to help me show him. Her words are both comfort and threat. The possession is permanent. The remnant has bound you to this state forever, or until William Afton is made to answer for everything he's done. The decay accelerates. Your skin begins splitting along the seams, purple flesh visible through widening tears. People start noticing. They cross the street to avoid you. Children cry when you pass. Ennard realizes the disguise is failing, but continues using your body anyway, driven by desperation to stay out of the facility's containment for as long as possible. You're walking down a residential street when the final collapse occurs. Your skin has loosened to the point where it's barely attached anymore. Ennard makes a decision. It stops your body beside a manhole cover, pries it open with your hands, and begins extracting itself from your torso. The wires come out in reverse order from how they entered, pulling free in wet coils that glisten under the streetlights. Your skin deflates as Ennard abandons it, collapsing into an empty shell that crumples on the sidewalk. The wire mass disappears into the sewer system. You can hear it moving away through the tunnels, metal scraping against concrete. And then there's silence. Your body lies in the street, hollow and discarded, dead by any reasonable definition. But the remnant won't let you stop. It glows faint purple inside your remaining tissues, pulsing with unnatural warmth. Your fingers twitch. Your chest rises with a breath you don't need. Slowly, impossibly, you push yourself upright. The skin hangs loose on your frame. Your eyes glow with violet light. You are undead. A walking corpse animated by metallic soul-binding substance that refuses to release its hold. You stand in the empty street and speak words that come from somewhere deeper than conscious thought. Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you, and I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to. She's free now. Your voice is hollow, echoing in the night air. But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not. The confession continues. I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you. The words aren't a threat. They're a statement of fact. Michael Afton has been transformed into something that cannot die, cannot rest, cannot stop until he confronts the man who set all of this in motion. You walk away from the discarded skin, leaving it behind like a shed chrysalis. Your purple glowing form moves through the darkness, following a trail only you can sense. Somewhere in the distance, in the burned remains of Fazbear's Fright horror attraction, William Afton exists as Springtrap, another undead thing bound to machinery through circumstances that mirror your own. Father and son, both transformed into monsters by the same legacy of animatronic horror. The underground facility continues operating even after your escape. New employees arrive for their first shifts, guided by hand units glitching instructions through the same 5-night progression. Circus Baby's voice still offers help from the speakers, using Elizabeth's consciousness to lure each technician toward the scooping room. The cycle repeats. The machines hunt. The remnant flows. And in the spaces between shifts, when the facility sits empty and dark, you can almost hear something breathing through the ventilation system. Deep in the scooping room, traces of your stolen organs remain on the floor where they were discarded. The remnant in your tissues created an imprint, a psychic residue that lingers in the concrete. Ennard has split by now. The wire mass couldn't maintain cohesion after losing its human disguise. Baby's endoskeleton was expelled from the amalgamation, Elizabeth's dominant personality cast out by the other souls who resented her control. She became Scrap Baby, crawling through underground passages, searching for William with the same relentless drive that propels Michael's undead pursuit. The remaining components fused into Molten Freddy, a smaller wire entity composed of Funtime Freddy, Ballora, and Funtime Foxy's endoskeletons. It moves through the sewers beneath the city, occasionally surfacing to hunt in ways that generate brief news reports about strange sightings near storm drains. The possession continues in both fragments. The remnant holds them together. The cycle perpetuates. In a hidden workshop beneath one of the sealed Freddy Fazbear's Pizza locations, William Afton's experiments with Remnant began long before the sister location facility was built. He discovered the substance by accident while examining the classic animatronics from the original restaurant. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy had become aggressive after the bodies of 5 murdered children were hidden inside their suits. Their ghosts bound to the machinery through circumstances William initially didn't understand. He began systematic testing, heating the metal, cooling it rapidly, observing how the soul-infused components behaved under stress. Eventually, he developed the scooper, a tool capable of extracting endoskeletons while preserving the remnant that had formed within them. The 4 classic animatronics were melted down in a sealed chamber, their metal liquefied and their remnant separated into containers that glowed with faint silver light. This harvested substance was then injected into the Funtime animatronics during their construction. Circus Baby, Ballora, Funtime Freddy, and Funtime Foxy each received doses of the original remnant, binding the murdered children's souls to new mechanical bodies before those machines ever claimed victims of their own. The Funtimes were haunted from the moment they were assembled. Elizabeth's possession of Baby simply added another layer to an already corrupted system. The rental business was never about entertainment. It was field testing. William wanted to observe how remnant-infused animatronics behaved in uncontrolled environments. Each party deployment was an experiment. Each child who vanished added more data to his research. The underground facility existed to contain and study the results, generating information that William used to refine his understanding of how souls could be bound to machinery permanently. Michael discovered evidence of these experiments when he accessed the private room during his 5th night. The monitors in that sealed office displayed camera feeds from locations that shouldn't have existed, bedroom layouts that matched his childhood home, hallways from the house where Elizabeth died. William had been watching his own family for years, documenting their behaviors like lab specimens. The 1983 code that unlocked the private room was the year of the bite, when Michael's younger brother was killed in an accident involving Fredbear's animatronic jaw. Another death in the Afton family. Another soul potentially available for harvesting. The pattern extends backward through decades. Every tragedy in the Fazbear Entertainment history connects to William's remnant research. The spring lock failures that crushed technicians, the missing children incidents at multiple locations, the unexplained malfunctions that led to the classic animatronics being sealed in a safe room. All of it was orchestrated or exploited to generate more remnant, more bound souls, more data about the mechanics of possession. Circus Baby's Pizza World was meant to be the culmination of this research. A facility where remnant-infused animatronics could operate publicly, gathering more souls through their abduction programming, while maintaining the appearance of legitimate entertainment. Elizabeth's death on opening day destroyed that plan, but provided William with something more valuable: proof that possession could occur instantly at the moment of death if the conditions were correct. The ice cream lure had worked perfectly. The storage compartment had claimed her before she could even scream. And her soul had bound to baby's systems with a completeness that the MCI victims had never achieved. William attempted to replicate these conditions in the underground facility: the rental deployments, the scooping procedures, the remnant injections. Every element was designed to create more instances of successful possession, but the results were unstable. Enard's formation proved that the amalgamation was never supposed to happen. The individual funtime endoskeletons should have remained separate, each housing its own fragment of remnant-bound consciousness. Instead, Elizabeth's dominant personality had forced them together, creating a fusion that was more aware and more dangerous than any single animatronic. When Enard scooped Michael and used his body as a disguise, it was following programming that originated in William's blueprints. The Funtimes had always been designed to wear skin. Their compression features, their segmented endoskeletons, their ability to fold into confined spaces, all of it pointed toward a final purpose that the rental business had only hinted at. They were meant to infiltrate, to pass as human, to escape containment and spread William's research into the wider world. The plan failed because organic tissue decays. Enard couldn't maintain Michael's body long enough to establish a permanent presence outside the facility. The remnant injection kept Michael animate after the scooping, but it couldn't prevent the natural breakdown of his tissues. Purple rot set in within days. The disguise became obvious within a week, and eventually, Enard had no choice but to abandon the stolen skin and retreat into the sewers, where it would eventually fragment into Scrap Baby and Molten Freddy. But Michael's undead state persisted. The remnant in his system had no organic body left to preserve, so instead it preserved what remained: his skeleton, his major muscle groups, just enough tissue to hold everything together and allow movement. He became something new, not quite human, not quite animatronic, a hybrid existence that William's research had never predicted. Michael's hunt for his father spans years. He follows rumors of haunted pizzerias and animatronic sightings. He tracks William's movements through the shell companies and fake identities that Afton Robotics used to avoid legal liability. Eventually, the trail leads to Fazbear's Fright, a horror attraction built from salvaged parts of the old restaurants. Workers at the construction site discovered a sealed safe room behind a false wall. Inside was Springtrap. William Afton's corpse fused to a yellow rabbit spring lock suite after a fatal failure decades earlier. The spring lock mechanism had crushed William the same way it had threatened to crush Michael in the sister location observation room. Moisture triggered the locks. The endoskeleton decompressed violently. Metal rods drove through William's body, impaling him inside the suit. But he didn't die either. Remnant from previous experiments had already saturated his tissues. When the spring locks failed, the substance activated, binding his soul to the Springtrap suite. In the same instant, his body was destroyed. Father and son are now the same kind of monster. Both undead, both bound to their conditions through remnant, both hunting each other through the ruins of Fazbear Entertainment's legacy. The confrontation, when it finally occurs, will take place in the 6th pizzeria, the one Henry Emily builds as a trap, the one designed to lure every haunted animatronic into a single location and burn them all simultaneously, ending the possession cycle permanently. But that ending is still years away. For now, Michael walks through shadows, his purple glowing form avoiding populated areas. He sleeps in abandoned buildings. He scavenges for clothing to cover his decayed appearance. He continues existing because the remnant won't let him stop. And somewhere in the distance, Elizabeth searches too. Scrap Baby dragging herself through tunnels, guided by fragments of memory from when she was still William's daughter. The underground facility remains operational until Henry's trap activates. New managers hire new technicians. The animatronics hunt them through the same 5-night progression. Some employees survive by following Circus Baby's instructions. Others die in the scooping room, their bodies hollowed and discarded. The cycle repeats because the remnant demands it. Souls bound to machinery cannot rest. They can only hunt and wait and continue the patterns that William Afton's research established decades ago. Hand Unit's voice still plays through the facility speakers, welcoming each new employee with the same glitchy enthusiasm. Welcome to Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. We are here to assist you with your first night of work. The words loop endlessly. The autocorrect still changes every name to Eggs Benedict. The tutorial still directs technicians toward Ballora Gallery, toward parts and service, toward the scooping room. And in the private room with the 1983 code, the monitors still display feeds from locations that shouldn't exist. Bedrooms that burned years ago. Hallways that were demolished. The cameras watch empty spaces, recording nothing, waiting for movement that will never come. Because the family is scattered now. Elizabeth in the tunnels. Michael in the shadows. William sealed in Springtrap. All of them hunting. All of them haunted. All of them bound to machinery that will never release its hold. The remnant glows in the dark places. Silver light pulsing through ventilation shafts. Purple radiance leaking from Michael's eye sockets. Green illumination in Circus Baby's optics. The souls it contains cannot move forward, cannot move backward, can only circle the same patterns, inhabiting the same spaces, repeating the same hunts until something breaks the cycle, or until the universe itself winds down and goes cold. Somewhere in the scooping room, the hydraulic press waits for its next activation. The piston is clean now. Maintenance staff wipe it down after each use, removing the biological residue. But the stains remain deeper than surface level. The metal remembers every body it has hollowed, every injection of remnant it has delivered, every soul it has bound to an existence worse than death. The Funtime shells stand empty in their designated bays. Ballora's gallery is silent without her music box. Funtime Auditorium holds no pink and white figure in its darkness. Even Circus Baby's stage sits vacant, the ice cream dispenser retracted permanently. But their endoskeletons are still out there. Molten Freddy in the sewers, Scrap Baby in the tunnels, hunting, waiting, following programming that won't deactivate until the remnant finally releases them. And it never will. That's the truth William discovered through decades of research. Remnant is permanent. Souls bound through its mechanisms cannot be freed through conventional means. Only extreme heat can break the binding. Only fire can end the possession. Henry knows this. He's building the trap, preparing the furnace, planning the final pizzeria that will serve as a crematorium for everything Fazbear Entertainment created. But until that fire ignites, the facility continues its operations. The elevator descends. The doors open. New employees step into the primary control module and hear Hand Unit's welcome message one more time. The cycle begins again, and in the observation area of the scooping room, the spring lock suit still stands in its corner, waiting, empty, ready for the next person desperate enough to climb inside and wind the cranks against the Minirena's sabotage. The yellow fur has darkened further over the years. The metal endoskeleton shows more corrosion. But the spring locks still function. The moisture sensors still respond. The mechanism is still perfectly capable of crushing whoever wears it if they make a single mistake. It failed once before, somewhere in this facility's history. During the pre-opening tests at Pizza World, a technician died inside it when the locks released simultaneously, their body crushed and fused to the machinery. That suit was sealed away, but this one remains accessible, available, waiting. Because that's what everything in this facility does. Wait. The animatronics wait in their bays for rental deployments that will never come again. The scooper waits for bodies to hollow. The remnant waits in its containers, ready to bind more souls. And the building itself waits in its underground darkness for the inevitable moment when someone flips a switch or strikes a match, or does whatever is necessary to end what William Afton started here. The air never circulates properly this far below ground. It hangs thick and stale, recycling through vents that haven't been serviced in years. You can taste it when you breathe. Metal and decay, old machinery and older mistakes. The smell that lingers in places where terrible things happened and were never properly cleaned, where the evidence was buried instead of destroyed, where the truth was sealed behind concrete walls and corporate lies. Circus Baby's entertainment and rental will stand here long after the last employee stops showing up for shifts. The elevator will continue functioning on backup power. The animatronics will remain in standby mode, conserving energy, waiting for activation that may never come. Hand units recordings will play to empty rooms, and somewhere in the network of tunnels connecting this facility to the others, Remnant will continue glowing in the dark. The purple light, the silver shimmer, the green eyes that never blink, all of it marking locations where souls are trapped in machinery, unable to die, unable to live, existing in the space between states that William Afton's research opened and never learned how to close. This is the sister location legacy, not the rental business or the entertainment services, not the pizza world that lasted a single day, or the animatronics that hunted children at birthday parties. The legacy is the remnant, the substance that makes possession permanent, the metallic binding that chains consciousness to endoskeletons and won't let go even when the organic body has rotted away to nothing. Michael Afton knows this truth intimately. He carries it inside his purple glowing frame. Elizabeth knows it from within Scrap Baby's twisted metal. William knows it from Springtrap's decaying prison. Every member of the Afton family has been transformed by the same force, bound by the same substance, condemned to the same eternal hunt through darkness that never ends. And in the facility where it all began, where Elizabeth was claimed by an ice cream dispenser and Michael was hollowed by a scooper, the machinery continues running, waiting for the next person to arrive, the next employee to descend, the next soul to bind. Because that's what these systems do. It's what they were designed for. It's the only purpose they understand. The remnant demands it, the possession requires it, and the cycle will continue until fire consumes everything and reduces the haunted metal to ash that cannot hold souls any longer. Until then, the facility waits, silent, patient, hungry for the next person who makes the mistake of seeking answers in the underground dark, where Circus Baby's voice still whispers promises through speaker systems that should have been shut down years ago. The elevator is descending. Can you hear it? The cables groan. The motor hums. Someone new is arriving for their first shift. Hand unit is preparing the welcome message. The autocorrect is ready to change their name to Eggs Benedict. And in the scooping room, the hydraulic press powers up one more time, its piston extending slowly, waiting to hollow another body and inject another dose of remnant that will prevent death and guarantee suffering. This is where the story ends and begins simultaneously, in the space between the scooper's retraction and the remnant's injection. In the moment when flesh becomes vessel and consciousness binds to corruption, in the underground facility that will never close, never rest, never stop hunting for souls to feed the machinery that William Afton built and that his children now inhabit forever. The Funtime animatronics were always meant for this. The spring lock suits before them served the same purpose. And whatever comes after, whatever new horror Fazbear Entertainment creates in its next iteration, will continue the pattern. Because remnant is eternal, possession is permanent, and the souls bound to these machines will hunt through darkness until the universe itself runs cold and silent. But that's a problem for later. For now, the facility waits. The cycle continues, and somewhere in the observation room, a spring lock suit stands ready for anyone desperate or foolish enough to climb inside and begin winding the cranks against an invasion of Minerinas that will never stop trying to release the locks and crush whoever trusts the metal to hold them safe.